everyone, and this is Wesley from the USA, and I'm doing a podcast with
Hello. Hi, I'm Tina. I'm from Canada.
an American and a Canadian. Our combined forces to provide you with a podcast about teaching in Korea
Yeah.
and just sharing our experiences with that. So
Yeah. We're really excited to do this today because we basically met in Korea, and so we're going to be talking a lot about our experience.
yeah, this is something that I always wanted to do. I'm not
Really?
I'm really excited. Well, yeah, I'm not really a journal person,
Um,
but I'm really interested in history. So this is
okay.
just a really cool way to compartmentalize and even, remember everything that we did and went through. And I think I'll give the credit to Tina for spurring this on. Although, yeah, we're a team, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. I'm glad that we actually decided to do this together, like after 4 years.
it's been 4 years. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
But,
Yeah, right. Yeah, time
yeah.
flies. And this is actually not our first production together on our IMDb accounts. We have a prior thing we worked on before that we'll talk about in a future episode, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I can talk about that later.
I'll just start off with just introducing myself for now, and then I'm sure Tina can chime in.
hmm
She has some more things. So I'm from Missouri. I don't know if most of our listeners probably have never been to Missouri. I guess our future listeners probably never been there, but it's in the middle of the USA, called the Heartland. It's got two big cities, Kansas City and St. Louis. By big, I mean those are the two cities in the state. And the NFL champions last year, the Kansas City Chiefs. So hold your applause. That's where they're about an hour away from where I live by car. I also in that small town. I didn't really have much of an opportunity to meet international students or exchange students. We had a couple exchange students in high school, but my journey of really getting to appreciate other cultures began when I began working at our international center when I was a sophomore in college. I worked at the front desk, and I didn't just answer the phone. I did a lot of face-to-face interactions with the students and helping them, find various documents and giving them things they're supposed to pick up, and through that, they began to want to hang out with me, and they asked me to come try some, food from the other countries, like Korean food, whatever. So I began to just couldn't stop saying yes to all the things they're inviting me to. So from that, I began to hang out with them on a consistent basis, basically since 2011 all the way through when I graduated at my undergrad in 2013, and then I went to grad school and also did some volunteer work with Koreans and other like East Asian region places as well. And from that, that is when I began to hear about different opportunities to actually work abroad, and that's how I heard of the EPIK program, which is
hmm
where we're gonna be talking about later. That's how Tina and I met. It was through my kind of internship as a graduate assistant where I heard about the EPIK program, and what really got me interested in all that was all my experiences as an undergrad, as a volunteer, um, and all those different things. So yeah.
I'm from Toronto, Canada, and basically right now I am a federal government employee by day and freelance writer by night. 4 years ago, I met Wes in Korea. We both live in the same city in Daejeon, and we met during orientation week. So, story of how it all started for me and how I chose Korea and EPIK was basically back in university on my final year, like my final term. I was like really lost throughout university and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And basically, for me, I really wanted like change and growth. And I basically connected with someone who is a friend and also became my mentor. And she really inspired me to travel and look abroad. And so I did a lot of research and some informational interviews. And basically, she also introduced me to other people who have taught abroad. And I met a lot of people, and I also like interviewed them and asked them about their experience too. Sorry, there's a fly here in my room. So basically, I wanted it more than anything, and I thought it would be a really good experience because it's challenging and it's a rewarding experience to venture out into the world and gain work and life skills. So I had that burning desire to travel and then meet people around the world and immerse myself in a different culture while making an impact. So that was like my reason. I wanted to like share cross-cultural experiences and grow in the process. And that's where I decided to go with EPIK as well. We want to talk about like what EPIK is and
yeah, they probably are wondering like what are they talking about? What's EPIK? So EPIK stands for English Program in Korea, and it's a government program. So the Korean federal government or whatever oversees it, and it's been going on since I believe the late '90s or ish around there. And yeah, basically they're looking for native English speakers to be English conversation guest instructor at not universities, at high schools and middle schools and elementary schools, any kind of public K through 12. Although mostly it's elementary and middle school, I would say at this point. But yeah, and then it's really neat because they pay for your flight and they give you starting money, and they have all these. And they have actual structure, and then it's just a lot of. It's very well.
Yeah, they find that for you, the accommodation, so that's we don't have to deal with that when we get there.
Right. Yeah, we don't want.
My main reason for choosing EPIK too, like.
Oh, really?
Compared to like other programs that I looked into, yeah, EPIK was like a really good deal.
Right. Yeah, and I was so thankful for their generous assistance with some of the transition costs, because I was a broke graduate student at the end of it, and I had almost no money. I was substitute teaching on the side, just hoping to have enough to get over there, and I ended up getting a credit card where you could have no interest for a year, and that's how I paid for my flight to Korea. Is I used that. And then I just paid like the minimum, and there was no interest charge until I got my flight money from the EPIK program. That's how I actually paid that. So it was like, yeah, it was really helpful. But the application process though is quite long and rigorous. Yeah, you want to speak to that a little bit more, Tina?
Yeah, sure. EPIK program. Again, like what you said, so it's competitive. It's a government-sponsored program, and but what's so great about it is that it does give you a lot of support and training, and you do get a stable position at the public school with great hours and benefits.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely worth It's worth it. But it does take a lot of time, and there's a lot of steps to go through, because they really want to make sure that the guest instructor is someone that'll be an asset to, because they're investing a lot in our flights and our housing, our salary, so they have to make sure that the person is a good fit, so and has the credentials and has the character as well. There is sort of a character. There's an FBI. Well, so for the USA anyway, we had to do an FBI background check. So.
Oh yeah, I had to do a background check as well.
I had to get a background check, and then I had to send it to the FBI, and then they had to look at it, and then it had to go to another office in DC to be verified additionally. So yeah, and I heard that if there was anything on my record, even like a misdemeanor, like a public intoxication, I wouldn't get it. I wouldn't be in the EPIK program. It's super strict. They don't allow anything like, was it possession of marijuana, my MIP, even like anything on your record. From what I heard, you can't get in. So it's pretty stringent for sure.
I just remember like, at least for me, for my requirements is that I'm required to take the certificate. So the teaching English as a second language.
Oh, right. Was that online or in person?
So for mine was online. Mine was a minimum 100 hours, and I did it online. There was no practical for mine, but I did to make up for that. I volunteered by like tutoring ESL students
Oh, neat.
prior to going to Korea. So that was my experience because they
That's
asked
good.
about that too, like what experience you have to have with kids.
Right.
There was
Yeah.
that.
Point.
And I remember like the process was very long and that we had like the application was, you had to answer questions in essay format and attach a sample lesson plan
Right.
too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I did that as well. And then the interview was over. I had my interview over Skype
Mm-hmm.
with
Same.
with I guess we're gonna say his name. I don't know. Should we? Let's call him. Let's call him Andy. Let's call him Andy.
Why? Okay, well, he's the coordinator basically.
The person that interviewed me was named Andy, and that was over Skype. And yeah, they asked about just some basic stuff, but then, oops, I don't want to hit the table. They also asked about my teaching, like philosophy and stuff like that. So,
Right.
my graduate degree is Master's of Education. So, in that, we learned a little bit about learning styles for college students because I did student affairs.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Anyway, I just talked about a little bit, very lightly about that, and yeah, just tried to show my interest in the culture and that yeah, I was really passionate about being a good teacher there,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to get through the interview on my first try. However, I did not know like where it was gonna be at
Yeah, you
first.
didn't know. Like
Well, I knew. Well, I knew,
you.
but
What do you mean you knew?
well,
Well, we
it's kind
had
of
we have preferences,
no,
right?
no. Well, yeah, you had to pick one preference,
Yeah.
but and I chose Daejeon because
As your first choice?
as my first choice. That
Oh,
was my strategy because I wanted to be in a city because my Korean was not good enough to survive in a smaller town. If I were fluent in Korean, I would be totally cool with like Korea's. I don't want to get off track, but yeah, I'd be fine with that. But I just didn't feel like my Korean was quite there, so I needed to be in a city for being able to get food and communicate. So anyway, I knew everyone was gonna pick Seoul. So I was like, I'm not gonna pick there. Everyone, it's gonna
yeah.
fill up, and then
Super
I won't get
competitive.
it. And then Busan required, that's the second biggest city in Korea, they required an in class teaching certificate, which I did not have. So,
I think it was more competitive, like to
also competitive because it's right on the beach. Who wouldn't want to
right.
go there?
Yeah.
Yeah, but so then the last two options for cities were Daegu or Daejeon, and actually I have a ton of friends in Seoul, and Daejeon is closer to Seoul, so that's why I picked Daejeon. It's only like about an hour and a half by express bus, so it's pretty quick to get there. So I saw that if I put that as my priority, I doubt many people will, and then they're gonna let me in. So
So you were
that
really
was
strategic about it.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it paid off. We'll get into that later, but yeah, I was really excited when I was confirmed to be in Daejeon and not somewhere where I would have struggled to communicate and tend to my basic needs.
Interesting.
So
So like your choice. Okay.
yeah, oh yeah, it was yeah. I mean, if I would have gotten this Seoul, that would have been amazing. But yeah,
Yeah.
that. But it's yeah, it's a little too crowded for me too. I'm from a small town of like 20,000 people,
Yeah.
so it's a little much for me to be in Seoul. Daejeon felt like a regional, like it felt like a smaller city, so it felt good. Yeah.
Yeah, for myself, I had a very different, I guess, a pretty different experience. So I did also have a Skype interview, and it was with the coordinator, the same one. I remember that day really well. I was actually really nervous that day, and I really wanted it. So basically, I actually applied for an earlier intake than usual
Oh,
because,
that's true. That's
yeah,
true.
so I actually had an interview. Was it for fall intake, I believe?
Yeah, it would have been
Yeah, it would have been fall. So
fall 2015. Yeah.
yeah, and then during the interview, there was technical difficulties, so then I couldn't even see Andy. But
Oh no.
I didn't see him, but then I don't know, like I was still really nervous, and then so I knew that I like messed up and I didn't get it. I found out later on, so I was like, sad about it. But then because I really wanted to, for some reason, I really wanted to go to Korea. I think it was because like a lot of people told me about their experience, how it's like really safe for first time teachers and travelers. I wanted to go with EPIK because of those, those good benefits and the stability.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the main reason too. So then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna apply again. So I applied and got an interview with someone else this time. I was definitely, prepared and more present, and I got in. That's how we all met.
Woo!
Yes.
Yes.
Just wanted to
I don't want to be jealous and say I'm a little glad you messed up the first time, but I wouldn't be lying.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm glad too, I guess, because otherwise I wouldn't have had the experience I had with you guys.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's also like good for me to look back and share, because just so you know, if you don't get it the first time, like if you really want something, you will do whatever it takes to get it and like try again, right? So
Definitely.
so I did have to wait because they only take people in certain times of the year, right? Fall, spring.
Right. Yeah.
Like
There's 2 intakes per year in EPIK.
Yeah, so then, I did have to wait for a while, but I think everything happens for a reason, at least for myself. Like, during that time, I was working and I was doing that teaching certificate,
Right.
completing that. And I also did like a trip leader experience with a travel agency, so I got more experience with like teens and leadership skills and that kind of thing. In terms of choosing Daejeon, I actually put Seoul as my first preference.
Oh, you did. Interesting.
Because
why did you pick Seoul?
That was the only city I knew. Like, it's funny because I think you knew more about Korea than I did. Like, for me,
Right. Yeah.
and you also had like more exposure and like friends that are Korean too, and that kind of experience.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, for me, I started meeting them when they were all exchange students from like 2011. I dated one for a while, and then and then throughout throughout grad school. So at that point, it had been probably like 4 years, I'd say, of meeting Koreans every semester. So I was fairly comfortable with the culture, and I was pretty aware of like several cities at the time. Yeah, and the food and the music and the dramas and all that.
That also.
So I did have that background, which made me that was helpful. But yeah, I couldn't. I mean, starting out fresh though, that's really adventurous, Tina.
I mean, for myself, even I wasn't like, I watched like a few dramas here and there, and like the music from their OST from the show.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
I didn't really have an interest in like the Korean culture really, as much as like my friends do. So so I just didn't really know much, and then I had to like do research, and then I chose Daejeon was another choice because so second time I applied with EPIK, I worked with a recruiting agency.
Oh.
So I thought like maybe this time they could help me like prepare for an interview or like to do something different, so to increase my chance of getting in. So then they were free agency that helped me just like with deadlines and that kind of stuff too. So that was good. And I saw
Sorry, keep going.
No, I saw some of the videos, and it was like they were showing like different cities, and I saw Daejeon, and I'm like, oh, this place looks really nice. They made it sound so good, like it's like known for like science and technology and really advanced technology.
Right. Yeah, they have KAIST, which is one of the best engineering universities. You know what Koreans like that I meet though, because I still do like I still have opportunities to talk with all my friends and stuff. And whenever I mention, they're like, "Oh yeah, you were in Korea before, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was in Daejeon." And they always have like the same reaction to Daejeon. They're just like, "There's nothing to do in Daejeon. Like, what are you doing in Daejeon?" I'm like, I thought it was a cool place. Like, I don't know, but it's not touristy though. It's not like
exactly.
But for living and for working, it's totally.
Yeah, I'm happy with my choice.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's also like 2 hours away from Seoul.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
By the time you get with traffic and.
So I wanted that because it was close to Seoul, and also because it's in the middle. It's very easy to travel anywhere because of the transportation system was very convenient. So that was the reason.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when you can go if you can go to another city for like $10, I mean, yeah, sign me up. That was really neat.
Yeah, and just the fact that it's a city, but also it's not as busy as Seoul. So then
Right.
it's a good mix.
To me, like I'm from a town of like 20,000, and then Columbia, where I went to grad school, was like 120,000. So when I went to Daejeon, like that's like over 1 million people. That was like, I'm scaling up here. That was pretty big for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for daily life and living. However, the area, well, I don't want to get ahead, but the area I was at wasn't too crowded, at least. I'll just say that. So that was helpful.
That's good. So the interview, there was a lot of situational questions, I remember too, but mostly very basic questions about yourself, your intentions, and your experience teaching.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Make sure you weren't crazy, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, of course they missed that.
Yeah, just a little bit.
There was also like medical documents that you had to submit, and then I had to apply for visa. And
Oh yeah, the visa thing. I actually, yeah, it's different probably by every country, but in the U.S., what I did was for like the background check, and there was you had to verify you had your degree, and then you had to send that to the Washington D.C. as well. So I used the thing called a funneler, where you paid someone money to expedite your documents, basically.
okay.
It was like $50 to $60 for each thing, so it wasn't that cheap. And then for the actual visa itself, after all that stuff was done, I went to Chicago with my girlfriend, and we had like we stayed a few days in Chicago, and then we went up to the consulate, the Korean consulate in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was only a 10-hour train ride, so we thought we might as well.
You had to go to Chicago for that.
Yes, otherwise it would have taken, oh my gosh, months probably to do, and we didn't have that much time. We only had like probably a month to 2 months to get that all done. So it was a little risky to not use the funnelers and to not actually go to Chicago for that purpose, I would say. So there were a lot of like my money as a substitute teacher that all went towards that basically, is to pay for all those things. So but yeah, that's how I did. I don't know about with Toronto. Since you're in Toronto, though, don't you have like the consulates or the embassies right there? So
Yeah.
So that's nice.
It was nice. I didn't have to drive too far to get all
That's
that done. Yeah. I do remember, like, for myself, that like the process took like about 6 months. Like that's how long everything took before, like, signing the contract.
They send the contract to you in the in the email or mail, or did we get it when we were at the training site?
I remember getting it in the mail.
Yeah, I thought we got something in the mail, and then at the training site we signed it or something. Yeah.
Signed the contract, and then we found out where we were placed.
Well, see, I already knew.
You knew?
Okay, I know how I knew. So I knew because of Facebook. The former teacher at my school found me.
Message you.
Yes.
Oh, I got a message too, but like later. What?
Yeah, it was before orientation and everything, so I knew where I was gonna be like a month before.
That's nice. That they found you, because mine also found me. No.
I did not return the favor though. I did not find the person after me.
No, I found the person. No,
you did?
I found the person to ask them questions. I wrote a letter in the end, but to my new replacement.
Yeah.
Never heard from her though. But anyways.
Oh, and then also, this just to clarify, when you're doing the EPIK program, most of the time you don't know where you're going to end up until after you finish what we're going to talk about really soon, EPIK orientation. So you don't technically know until after like the 10 days or whatever of orientation, unless someone reaches out to you beforehand, if you're lucky. But that's not you. I would not count on that. I'd say like less than 10% of the time, if I had to guess, that would be it. So yeah, most of the time you don't know if you're going to be in Seoul or Daejeon or Busan or somewhere like a smaller city or
Uh-huh.
even a town,
Yeah.
you don't know. You have no idea. So
No
you cannot
idea.
plan. You can't plan too much because yeah, you don't know where you're gonna
Mhm.
be.
And you have to be okay with that, like, wherever they place you, basically.
And you don't with your school. You can have if you're lucky, you'll have one school, but a lot of people
Yeah,
had
some people
multiple
had
schools.
multiple. They
If,
had to travel all the time and had different schedules. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I had one, so that was good.
Yeah, I did as well. But one person I remember, he had 5 schools.
5? Whoa.
Yeah, how in the world could you like you'd be a stranger most of the time,
Yeah, like
So
you wouldn't it would be you wouldn't they wouldn't see you as often, so it won't be, I guess, harder for you to get to know everyone, like the students as
right. Yeah, and you cannot control that. Like it would be yeah, I don't know how that's decided, but it seems like if we decide to go back, that could probably easily happen to us. Like we could easily have that situation. So
true.
yeah, so we were both very fortunate to have one
Mhm.
school and be in a city.
Yeah,
I felt very lucky. And then
I think
yeah,
too.
I
Yeah.
don't want to get too far ahead though. We're gonna skip our orientation. We gotta talk about that.
Orientation now.
Okay, yeah, it's okay. So the flight, so when we were doing this, they may have changed it. We got to pick our flight, so within reason. So I picked what is it? The airline from Thailand.
You got to pick
Uh,
a flight, okay?
yeah, I got to pick
I
my
did too.
flight under a certain amount, or I heard that's changed now. So they pick it for you. So I heard, but
Okay.
yeah, but I got to pick mine, and that was fine. But yeah, when I
With
actually I
the
got there like a
hours.
week before orientation started, and I stayed with my girlfriend's family. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I never met them before.
Oh,
Never
that's
even
nice.
talked. I never even Skype. I don't know why we didn't do
Oh
this.
my god,
We
that's
didn't even
crazy.
Skype them. We
Why?
didn't. I never saw them in my life, and they
Oh
never.
my god. And you,
Yeah, and then we just like I was the plan was to stay at their house, and my girlfriend was still being an exchange student in America until June. So I left America in like early February, I believe.
okay.
And yeah, and I had said goodbye to my girlfriend and everything, and then my family, and then I took the flight, and I was in Seoul, and then yeah, I met her family. Were the first people I met.
But she wasn't there, right?
Was not there, and
They-
they're yes,
What?
and their English, like they didn't know much English, but the brother was some English. Her
The
younger
brother
brother.
basically was like, okay, this is the guy.
Yeah.
Telling your
His
parents
English was
like,
so his English wasn't bad, so he was able to help translate and do basic stuff. But you
okay,
know, yeah, so we were able to understand each other, and they
funny.
showed, yeah, I know, and they showed me around Seoul, and and I would frequently call my girlfriend, and we would have talk together while she was on the line, and make sure everything was understood, everything was going well. And then I stayed there for like I think about a week before I went to the orientation site. And actually I was gonna take a bus there, but her dad ended up warming up to me, and he drove me to the orientation site himself. So that
Wow,
was, I know, I was so like. I
lucky.
felt I felt lucky, and yeah, I felt good. I'm glad they showed me around Seoul, and we went to some restaurants, and we got along really well. So
That's good. And we're gonna talk about the flight. I actually have an interesting story too, actually. So I don't know if you had this, but prior to going to Korea, there was a group of people who are from Toronto, and we also were all going to Korea. And
nice.
I met up with a group of people, like a small group. But in the end, we all got placed somewhere else. But I saw them again in orientation, and then even this
Oh,
one
cool.
girl I met, um, like we had this like lunch. I met her, and then on the flight, I saw her again, and that's also when I met another one of our intakes,
Oh, nice.
Patrice.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, so she was on the flight too, and then like, but actually like my flight was like 14 hours, right? And it was good. Like I enjoyed my flight. And then I sat beside
good.
Korean kids, and I was like, "Hi," like to them. But no, I didn't cry when I said bye to my parents. I was just sad. I was sad if I didn't cry.
Now,
But
with your flight, did you get like a TV and everything like
yeah,
that?
yeah, it was great, So yeah, so now
Great.
orientation,
So
opening
yeah.
ceremony, or
So wait, how long were you in Korea before you went to the orientation site?
honestly, like maybe late, like maybe
Like a day before,
yeah, like
or
a day before or something.
or a
Because I
couple
just
days? Okay.
I just went, and then they it was great that people from EPIK, they were there
Oh,
to.
they picked you up? For real?
Is it people from EPIK? It was Korea. They provided that service, and then they helped me get.
Oh, they did that for you? Really?
I
Oh,
remember they
that's cool.
checked. Yeah, I remember meeting the people there.
Oh, that's impressive.
So they
And did you pay them? How much did you pay them for
you have
that?
to pay them. They're free.
Oh my gosh, you didn't. Okay, so yeah, if you don't have a Korean connection like I did, definitely
Yeah.
consider Korea or.
Else I would have gotten there. I don't even know how to get around.
We are not sponsored, by the way, just so you know, but
Yeah, yeah, but I
but,
recommend them.
that does sound really cool. Yeah, they helped you out with that. Because imagine if you didn't have any friends there and you didn't have a company to assist you, it would be challenging to know where to go. And
It was so sad. I only knew one person in Daejeon too. Okay, but
oh,
I only met her. I met her through a friend, and she was an international student before at my university, but my friend was the
oh,
mentor.
neat.
And then so I actually have her on Facebook, and I messaged her like, "Hey, let's meet up." And then because I don't know anyone, right? And then
Right.
it never happened, so I didn't know anyone.
Aw, that's too bad. It would have
But
been neat if you
I
could
met
have
her
met,
eventually.
but yeah,
Yeah.
since you didn't have any Seoul natives or Incheon people, Incheon friends, that would have been hard for them to meet you in the airport anyway. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's good that they helped you. And then, yeah, our orientation surprisingly was not in Seoul, which I assumed it would be.
Yeah.
It
It was
was in the city of Suwon, which is
Swan.
very close to Seoul,
Yeah.
I think. But
Yeah.
it's a city in its own right, though. It's like a smaller. It's a decent sized city, and I could find it because well, the thing is, they tell you where all the orientations are on the Epic website, so they actually say where it was in that particular year.
So
So you would know. They would actually tell you where it is. So
I just grabbed my Korea photo book.
yeah, I think it's Kyunghee. I'm looking at the picture.
I guess we can talk about opening ceremony.
Right, right.
How's
what'd you
that?
think about that? Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to remember 4 years ago. I do remember that I felt it was really interesting. Our experience will be like, and they gave a lot of information. Um, Something that stood out that I remember was the fan death story.
Oh right, yeah, fan death.
Do you remember that story?
Yeah, oh yeah, I remember. It's kind of like a folk tale or like a. It's just a story that if you're in a room by yourself and there's like the windows are all shut and you have the fan on, like any kind of fan really, like a ceiling fan or like a fan
Just
you can
like,
put to the
yeah, like,
side and turn on, like it'll suck all the air out of the room somehow, and then you'll suffocate and die from
yeah,
the fan. So
that's
it's like
basically it, right? Yeah.
yeah, that's basically it. Yeah. So like this one instructor, she was working at like in a smaller town and like her her apartment was near the school and she had a fan because it gets really hot during the summers in Korea and you know she had it on and she heard like some person was like walking outside her door and it was just kind of a little bit anxious about that and then one day she's like I'm gonna find out what's going on and then she goes and apparently it was the vice principal and the vice principal was checking to make sure she didn't leave the fan on overnight to avoid
Hmm.
fan death. so so
Like,
when I tell this story to my parents, they don't believe in the fan death was the reason. They're doubting the
yeah,
character of
before,
the administrator.
yeah.
But fan death's the thing. They like I believe in it. I believe they had some traditional like dance or
Yeah, they
where
did.
they were wearing the hanbok. They
Humble.
were hum, hanbok. Yeah, I know Korean, but I'm blanking a little bit. Yeah, hanbok, and then they did some traditional dance, and we also had a closing ceremony. I don't want to mix with that, but yeah, I remember those two things the most. And
Mhm.
um, at that point, we already met our roommates by that point, so I was probably most likely with my roommate and with our. I think they may have already put us in as a group at that point, and we went with as a group to that opening ceremony, and then they just welcomed us and let us know about the schedule,
Mhm.
about what things were going to be like. And yeah, it was really exciting. I was so excited because I went through so much waiting to get the visa, to get through the application process,
Get
to
there, just
oh
to.
yeah, just getting there was a huge journey.
It
And
was
then
like so
a week,
exciting leading up to it.
yeah, this was like the start. Yeah, this was the start of, and also there's an online training we had to do before we even did this as well. That was took like, you know, 20 to 30 hours. So
Yeah, there was.
there was like a pre-training thing. So yeah, so this was the thing where we were finally ready to get started. And yeah, I was with people from like all over the world. There were people from England and various European countries, South Africa, Canada, USA, and they all were interested.
Australia,
Yeah.
Ireland, like so many different places. It was all over the world. That was like the best thing, meeting people from all over the world.
Yeah, and they all had a similar interest in Korean culture, or they wanted adventure, whatever the reasons were.
They all
Uh,
had really different reasons. It was really interesting to hear about like everyone's reason, like why they wanted to, teach abroad, why Korea and everything. So
yeah, and then the university we were at they had a beautiful dorm and a really nice campus. So yeah, it was at that point it was just really exciting, and and I was over my jet lag at that point, so that was good. Did you have jet lag at all during the beginning of it?
yeah, I did, and I was thinking like my roommate was she's also Canadian. So it was also, yeah, so then it was good, but then she was placed in another city. But it was like really interesting.
Oh
It was
yeah,
a good experience just like having the orientation to meet people from all over the world, and they all taught in different cities, like in Korea. Right?
right.
So then, like, you do make friends in during orientation, and like, if you keep in touch with them, you can actually meet them later on throughout the year or however long you're there,
Yeah, yeah,
and go
definitely.
visit each other in different cities and stuff. So that was
Yeah, and they can take turns hosting, and it's if you're that extroverted, then you have a lot of great opportunity here to meet people and
uh
build your network of ESL teachers. So
yeah, for sure.
I unfortunately was I don't know. I already knew so many Koreans that I didn't feel the pressure to network. However, I did talk with people. I did get to meet
Oh yeah,
people,
yeah, like
and I met Tina, which was all I really needed.
yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah,
of course, of course.
that's all I need. All I need is Tina. And then a few people in our Dacian group at the time were pretty cool.
Everyone, our intake, everyone is very nice, and we were all a really good group.
Yeah, and we had a mix of like veterans,
Yeah,
relatively speaking, and
yeah. People that
newbies.
came back or they had experience
Yeah,
in
so that was neat. And then we had uh, the best
the best.
ambassadors. The ambassadors, the volunteers were so
Best.
like they were so helpful and sociable, and
Mm-hmm.
I felt so
Really fun.
comfortable because they were there. They made a huge impact just for me feeling much more at ease because you know, I was just getting to know Tina. We weren't friends yet, right? And I didn't have my girlfriend wasn't around and her family wasn't around, so I felt like almost really alone. Like I was like a kindergartner or a first grader in school again. It was
And
like,
most of
what's
us felt
going
that
on?
way. Mm-hmm.
Or or my first like few weeks in grad school, I guess would be the most similar thing like that. So yeah, but this was on a much larger scale. So yeah, it was like having the volunteers, and not only our main volunteers, but there's like these other volunteers that were Koreans that I ended up adding on Facebook, and I still follow a little bit what they're doing to this day. So the volunteers were excellent. The staff were nice. Yeah, it was good. But the dorms though were interesting. The way the dorms worked. So we
Okay.
we stayed at a dorm where they separated each floor by the sex of the individual.
Right.
So like male identified on one, and or whatever, not even identified, just by sex, male on one and then female on the other. So like we actually couldn't go, like, yeah, I guess you could say they had like the girls' floors and the guys' floors if you want to make it real simple, and then like we couldn't actually go to those floors if we wanted. Say like I wanted to hang out with Tina and just talk in the break room on her floor. Couldn't
Yeah.
do that. Could not access it. I was like, are we in middle school or something? Like this have a curfew? I don't think so, right?
No, I don't think so because yeah, some people like went out during the night, explore and all that. So I don't think we didn't have that. I just remember it being really cold throughout like the whole campus, at least like the main areas, right? Like our rooms were fine, but then
Rooms were fine.
it was just like the main area. It was like so
The
cold.
hallways, the
The hallways, the
corridors, yeah, they were
classrooms.
freezing. Yeah.
And I think that's when a lot of people got sick because of that. But also like new environment, jet lag, all of those factors.
Right. Oh
So
yeah. And then a lot of people in the small space, as
yeah.
relatively speaking. Yeah.
I just remember that very clearly because I was so cold, even though I'm from Canada. But
Yeah, I'm like, you're from Canada. Like, did it really affect you?
yeah,
Like, I
expected.
I was actually sort of used to that. Well, so I actually studied abroad in Korea for a summer
Mm.
as well. I forgot to mention that when I was a junior. So that would have been like in 2012 in the summer. So this was just 3 years, about 3 years later that I was back, 3.5 years later. So I was a little bit accustomed to it, but
Yeah,
I was used to like the summer though. This was my first winter in Korea, so that was really
yeah, it was
interesting
a
to
really cold
see.
time.
Yeah, it's really cold. It's similar to where I'm from, but yeah, it's still cold. I had a big blue ski jacket on and everything to try to survive. And also, we had to trek to
Oh
from the
yeah,
bottom of a hill,
I
the
remember
very
that as
bottom.
well. That was what I remember.
It was like a 15-minute
Oh,
uphill hike. It was like a hike.
that's how it is like everywhere, a lot of places in Korea. Which actually it's good. We need to exercise more, and that's what I loved about it. Like that's how you get around. You just like hike everywhere, and
So like, yeah, if I don't mind walking around a bit if like there wasn't a deadline, but we had such a tight schedule. It was like
oh
the
yeah.
pacing combined with the walking, it was pretty
It
exhausting.
was funny because you see everyone around you struggling too, like everyone.
Yeah, everyone was struggling. Yeah, like it wasn't like it was flat. It was like you had to go and jump on a few stones and like go up this huge hill to get to the lecture. There was like lecture train sites,
Mm-hmm.
and then we started with getting. They showed us where everything was. There was obviously our roommates that we met, and then there's also like a convenience store which was
Yes.
in a stationary area. And of course I wanted to try everything because like this here, that's I love trying different snacks and drinks and stuff. So this was like that was the main place for me to be. I was pretty
We
excited.
had the vitamin drink.
Yes, with
It was
yeah, it's like, is there anything like it in Canada that you can compare it to? I don't know.
I don't
Nothing. I've never had anything quite like it.
yeah, I don't really have anything quite like it.
It's in a glass bottle, and you can like it's like liquid vitamin C, I guess, in a way, and it's got
Because I was like on the verge of getting sick, so I was like, take this. It was good too. Yeah, healthy and good.
ginseng. I think there was maybe some of that in there, or some sort of flavoring, like some sort of medicine-like taste. But yeah, they typically sell it at the pharmacies for like a couple bucks. But yeah, we had that, and yeah, we met, I guess, through. I know we met and hung out near that convenience store
You
area.
remember? our first interaction.
Why don't you introduce that?
Actually, I don't remember. So,
I
but we
know I know we were walking up the hill at one point and we were like doing some small talk and
oh
stuff. So I remember that. I remember that, and I remember going to the convenience store with you and
yeah,
trying the vitamin drinks. Those were the main two things I remember.
yeah, and also like during orientation week we had Korean classes, right?
Right.
And then we were
Yes.
placed into different classes depending on your level, and then we were in the same class and we had a small group.
Intermediate.
Yes, intermediate. I was intermediate.
Um,
Even though, I mean, I took Korean lessons, like free Korean lessons, right before I came to Korea, just because I
right.
wanted to have like a little bit of preparation. But I never finished my certificate hours because
Oh,
like it
yeah.
was really like I had to leave, right?
Right.
I learned a
That's
little
true.
bit, like basic Korean, but that intermediate class was a little too intermediate for me. But I
They
know
did.
it was fun. I learned a lot.
And we got to take that with our amazing what were they? Yeah, our leaders, the
Yeah, they were
volunteers.
great.
Yeah, they actually taught the Korean class. So
Mhm.
that's what motivated me because it was at the end of the day, but I knew that they were like leading it. So I was like, I'm not gonna like I'm gonna have to make it because they made it so enjoyable. So
Yeah.
so that was fun. And then our group, it was something where we got to kind of practice and have fun while we were learning
Yes.
Korean. So it was just a really good environment. However, like we started like I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I do have the scheduling with me, but I think we started around like 9ish, the first class, and then we went till like probably 7 or 8 in the evening. We had lunch and dinner break, and all that. But it
Mhm.
was it was fairly long days, I would say, and but they mostly talked to. You could choose which session you went to, and they would talk about. Might talk about lesson planning. They might talk about like culture. They might talk about various things, and then in the meantime, we had to do something after all that. We had to prepare a lesson to with another teacher, and then
So we're partnered.
as a partner, and then we had to actually prepare that after all of our schedule from like
After
8 till 7, like, and then in the evening, in addition, we had to prepare that as well. There was no time to work on that throughout the day, so it
uh-huh.
was like, and then people want to meet people and hang out, so it was just like it's like you're pretty much busy like 18 hours a day
Okay.
probably.
I have to say like that component where we had like the lesson planning with my partner and then having to do the demonstration in front of your entire group.
Yeah.
Everyone had to give like feedback, so that was really good
It
experience.
was, yeah, definitely. It can be. I don't know if it went well for everyone because you're so reliant on your partner being able to focus, and they could be sick or maybe they never done this before. So like I could definitely see it not going well in certain groups, but I mean that's good experience for teaching Korea later because you will have co-teachers
Yeah,
in Korea, and it'll vary a lot depending on how that goes. So it's kind of like a little bit of a preview, and
yeah,
then at least with the feedback, if there was that you could put out any big fires that might make it more challenging to teach in the real school. So that was really good. But I was so tired. I kid you not, I lost like over 5 pounds during that orientation.
okay.
Yes, literally, because they weighed us towards the very end, and I knew what I weighed like before I came to Korea. So I was down five. I was down like what is it 2 or 3 kilograms from the end of that time. So so yeah, it was a good for yeah, like you said, a lot of hiking
Yeah, those
and
stairs,
the
man.
food was healthy, fairly healthy. So yeah, it was
Yeah,
it
the food
was
is very healthy, and so
it was good for
that
me.
helps with my diet.
Yeah, but I would say like if I would give someone, I would say it'd be smart to prepare your cardio a little bit in case they do put you on a mountain campus. That way you're not as tired as I was trying to go back and forth about 3 or 4 times up that hill every day. So it was quite a bit. It was like 15 to 20 minutes uphill each time. So
Yeah.
it was, it's over an hour per day, and then it was cold. So yeah, definitely want to prepare yourself physically for that. And yeah, and you also had to be conscious of like you're interacting with, and the fact that all the different cultures that are in line. Like, I almost got in a fight with a guy from England at one point because he was talking about how stupid America was, and I was trying to debate him
Like,
about this, and then he threatened to punch me in the
wait, he punched
fight.
you? You almost did?
He was gonna, well, he was gonna, like, yeah, he was like in an English accent. He was gonna, like, yeah, he was gonna knock me out or punch me or something like that. So yeah,
Wow.
he was a pretty big guy too. But I was just like, yeah, I don't think you want to get kicked. I was scared. 'Cause I was like, I feel like I know how much it costs to get into this program, and I just don't feel like
Yeah,
someone
you're
would
like,
throw
you're
that.
not here for
You're,
this.
you're you're not gonna throw it away for a small
Mhm.
debate. So I wasn't scared, but I thought it was bizarre, and I was like, I don't understand this British culture very much. I think
So what
so.
happened? You just like, oh, I'm not gonna talk. Just you walked away, or
Oh yeah, I said like, I mean, you can hit me if you want, but you're gonna have to go like straight back to England. So and then he kind of backed off. So it's
yeah,
like,
you
yeah, I didn't.
get here. So
We're adults, you know. I mean, like, what is this? Like, seriously? So yeah, I was. And then yeah, and then he acted all. Then he kind of really backed down and tried to be like, "Hey, how's it going?" kind of thing. And I was like, "Yeah, it's fine, whatever," you know. But I didn't like him, but I just sort of just there's so many people there. It's pretty easy to interact with other people.
hmm
And then how about the health check? How was I'll let you lead on that.
my health check, the health check. Okay,
Not like specific, but like what was that like?
I'm trying to remember, right? Because like I just remember it being pretty intense. What did we do? We had blood work,
We had
right?
blood work, and they were looking
Urine test.
for.
We had that too.
Yes, we had that too. And then there was an X-ray that
X-ray.
you had to do.
Yeah,
And
because
I ended up in the wrong X-ray room where they had
how?
they did I didn't read the manual where it said like this
What?
color was for the guy, for the men or whatever, and then for the women. I just went into one of them, and there was a few there's a few women there, and they were they were looking at me kind of funny, and I didn't know who they were, and then eventually one of the volunteers told me I was in the wrong X-ray room area, so it was really embarrassing. I was like, oh no. So yeah, that was a little bit
Uh-huh.
unfortunate, but I was tired. And I was just trying to get through the thing. Like the I didn't drink enough water, so like I was dehydrated from all the walking, so I had issues with being able to do the urine test. I had to drink like
Mhm.
3 bottles of water, and like yeah, it was tough. And then
Yeah, it took a really long time.
also
Just
yeah.
so many procedures.
Yeah, there were so many, and what I heard was that if someone had any like marijuana or other drugs in their system, they would be sent straight back to where you come from. You'd have to pay for your flight,
Oh man.
and in addition, if you had like someone that was like HIV positive, they would be sent back as well, even though that's not technically like allowed, but that's what people said on like word on the street, is what they said,
Uh-huh.
which is really unfortunate. I hope that's not the case now, but that was the case back when we were there. They were looking for that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
else from that? Oh, and then after we went through all that, we had a really fun field trip, right? At
Yeah,
the end.
to Korean Folk Village, which was it was a good fun trip.
It was like all like I don't know if do you have this in Canada like Renaissance Festival or anything like that? Like people dress up like knights, and do you have that in
Like
Canada?
from medieval times.
Yeah, medieval times. Do you have those kinds of things? It was like that at the place. They were all dressed up Korean style, right? They were wearing hanbok, and they had traditional Joseon Dynasty like clothes.
Yeah,
So
and then they had those like a performance there too, like a dance, which is interesting.
yeah.
And then I think during that trip we also made some paper dolls.
Oh, we did. I don't know where mine is, but I kept it
Yeah,
in
you
my
broke
room
it.
the whole time. I kept it in my place the whole
Well,
time.
I think it's just a good way
We
to
took a
like,
lot of pictures. I remember
yeah,
that.
get to know the people in your intake and
Yeah, I do. I think we knew at that point. We knew they were intake, but we still didn't technically know where. Like I guess. But and then we hung out with our like orientation leaders, and
hmm
there was some like There were some amusement park rides we went on, which was
Oh yeah, I remember there was a haunted house.
yeah, that place, like, I thought it was just gonna be like a traditional sort of, but they also had some, like, an arcade there and some rides. So I was like, man, this place is really. It was big too. It was like
It was
really,
really
really
nice.
big. There was the closing ceremony right after that. They had the closing ceremony the next day, I would think, or that was like something towards the end. And we know we did our health check, we did the folk village visit, and then we had our closing ceremony where they did like a taekwondo demonstration, I believe. There was some taekwondo. There was some like inspirational speaker sort of there, um, and then we met our school, right, representatives, right. We met our teacher.
Right. But that was
Oh, wait,
later.
no, that wasn't yet, right. I think
No,
that's when we wasn't that when we were actually in Daejeon that we met them. Like we took the
yeah, we met
bus.
them when we were actually there. Like
Yeah, so we didn't meet them yet.
that was
Yeah,
later on.
yeah.
Whole other experience there, but yeah.
Yeah, it just like it felt so good to be done with it. It was like I'm ready. Like there was a lot of great things, mostly highs, and a few lows or awkward situations, but overall it was like I'm satisfied with this. Like I'm glad we had this. It is tiring, but I'm glad. I felt more prepared, definitely,
Yeah,
after.
for sure. I think like, from the whole orientation, like overall, it was just a great way to, of course, like meet, new people and people in your city that were in your intake, and then also to learn more about lesson planning. Like for someone like me, myself, I didn't have any like an education background or much teaching experiences, or like through like other experiences that I had. So that was good to learn a little bit like lesson planning, to have that practice with your partner and the
Yeah,
feedback. And so I felt like that it really helped prepare me for what to come. So that was like a really good experience.
yeah, just from that practical sense of being more confident, being able to actually lead a class and lead a lesson, because most people that are in this program, the majority are not like teachers technically. They did other things, business. Everyone has to have at least a 4-year degree, but we're not necessarily teachers. So having
Everyone had
all
very
the
different
all
backgrounds.
this yeah. Having all this was very helpful in preparing us for the classroom environment. Also, yeah, it. I'd say someone that's going to do this, should be in decent health, because it is very arduous. Very, if you want to be able to do it with a good attitude, just make sure you got your cardio in gear, and then you'll be fine. Just have a little cardio ready, because if you're too tired from the day, you're gonna miss out on the networking opportunities in the evenings, or you're gonna maybe be a little bit cranky, and we don't want that. So yeah, just being prepared physically is important for
Yeah,
that, because
you definitely want to make the most of
you
your
want to make the
orientation.
most of it. Yeah, because
Yeah,
if it's too much, like, yeah, like I felt like that even some
beginning.
days where it was too much. Like, be used to being busy for a decent stretch, and then that's going to help you really maximize that experience. And then let's see, and then yeah, trying to connect with people. That's how I connected with Tina, is through the cohort, and how we're it's 4 years later. Look at us,
I
right? So
know, oh my god. How are we still in touch? Okay.
I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. I don't know how she puts up with me, but yeah,
Exactly,
so
Yeah,
true. It's so true. But yeah,
that's
Tina's
why,
really Tina's really patient, so that's how.
oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, orientation, we met, and we actually became friends.
Yeah,
And 4 years later, we're doing this podcast. So who knows? Like you might meet some people that you will have like lifetime friendships with. So
yeah,
that's fun.
totally. So yeah, so just yeah, and then even if like other people that I'm not in contact with, I still have memories of hanging out with them that were enjoyable, that I still cherish, even now. So there's that, but definitely I just making lifelong friends is really really awesome. So yeah, so I that's just a great great component of it. And just, yeah, it's just something that I remember so well because it challenged me, but I also had all these new experiences, and it was just really exciting, I guess. I don't know, it felt like almost like a summer camp, but for getting ready to, to work somewhere as well. It's like the highs of a summer camp along with like something that prepared you for, yeah, your career, your next phase, like internship training kind of thing.
Stepping stone to whatever you want to do in the future, for sure.
And you will not, yeah. And you will not get that experience in, like, if you outside of EPIK, from what I know, they will not provide that. So you're pretty much gonna have to figure that all out for yourself. If you try to work for an academy or something, you won't get the robust orientation that I think first timers should definitely consider. If you're a veteran, though, you might not get as much from most of it.
For sure, you won't get as much out of it, but then still, great for networking opportunities.
Networking, totally. Because like if that's what you're into, like you can totally have a friend in every city in Korea by the end of it. And then you have a place to stay and someone that knows the area that's like, yeah, that you can communicate with in your native languages. So it's that if you're extrovert enough for that, then that's awesome. Yeah. If you're an introvert though, you can make that one special friend and still enjoy it. So.
You still have a good experience.
Yeah, that was me.
Me too. And so I guess there are a lot of people who really want to teach abroad. I think maybe some of the people who tune into this podcast want some tips and advice for doing this. So what do you think, Wes?
Yeah, I would say, definitely have some savings because you may not get a zero interest credit card like I did and get lucky. You might need to save up for that flight. And also, I would say have a month and a half of living expenses in Korea just in case there's delays. You don't want to be not have enough money for, getting your place set up a little bit with, cups, glasses, all the essentials for hygiene, food. You want to have enough for about 6 weeks, I'd say. And that would be, I would say at least have, if you could save around 3,000 minimum, I would say 30, for dollars anyway, between 3 and 4,000, I would have that in savings, after you're done with all the application stuff. Just have that there just so and you can subtract the flight cost from that because it takes a little bit of time to get paid back.
Yeah.
So you want to have that with you, and then just so you're not worried about money the whole time while you're in orientation or while you're getting settled. Do your best. If you if you can't reach that, try to get as close as you can because that's very helpful. And then also while you're getting ready to go, you have EPIK helps, and then there are a lot of online resources for being able to lesson plan. Like you don't want to go to EPIK orientation and have zero knowledge of lesson planning, and then kind of get all anxious and maybe embarrass yourself during the demonstration. Lesson planning is something I think that can be learned on a basic level in a few hours. Honestly, if you read some guides online on how to do it. It's a fairly straightforward process, and then it's something that, like any skill, you can always improve upon it and get better and better. But just have an understanding of what makes a good lesson plan, and and you'll have to know probably elementary and middle school kind of theory in that because you don't know which age group you're going to be in, so you have to be have a little bit of understanding, and EPIK does help with that, with their pre-orientation. And if I have one more advice, I would say learn Korean to the point where you can read it. So you can, your ABCs. That makes it so much easier to get around. You don't have to know 1,000 words, but if you knew the alphabet and maybe 50 words that are really basic, that's gonna make your life so much easier. So
that is very true.
It only takes probably I would say 10 to 20 hours to get to that point. So it's really not that much when you're waiting for your paperwork to get done. I recommend talktomeInKorean.com. They have some really good online resources. And then there's some YouTubers that do free Korean lessons.
Yeah, for sure. You can find
that are amazing. There's like Korean Uni. I like the Che sisters. That there's just so many good YouTubers that will go over grammar with you. And then vocab, there's like apps for that, like Duolingo, Memrise, and all that. So I think those are sort of my tips and advice. How about with you, Tina? What are some
Well, those are really good tips and advice, I have to say. I do want to add on to the part where you talked about savings, just because like I did bring I guess, decent amount of money, because they did tell us to bring, like, how much money did they tell us to bring coming into Korea?
Was it $2,000? At least two. Yeah, $2,000,000 or something.
$2 million won. And then actually really sad, but on the first week that I arrived to Daejeon, I actually lost money.
Oh no!
It was a really sad story because I was sick and I lost money and all of this happened. But basically, because of that, I was broke and I had to like really save and like watch my money because I had to wait to like get paid, which was like a month later.
Yeah, it was a month later. Yeah, it took about a month.
Had limited money, and then I was just so sad. And so like for sure bring enough money, but also like be careful and of course place your money in different places.
And we're gonna have to hear more about that story in the next podcast. I want to know if you're ready to share. I'm very curious.
Nothing really to a story, but anyway, so
okay, yeah, I gotcha. That's fine. Yeah, that is a big struggle. Yeah.
Again, like what you said about like learning Korean, I did like try to prepare for that and take Korean lessons, because even going there, I barely knew much Korean. And then also, like, if you're also like me, who doesn't have an education background or much like really like teaching experience, or you didn't even have the like practicum for teaching, what I did was that I volunteered for teaching experience and on other leadership experiences to prepare myself for like the whole year, because before when I applied I was like, whoa, 1 year is a long time, which is, but at the same time not really, right?
Yeah, right.
But to prepare yourself, because like if you have not ever really done like did anything like study abroad or anything like that, I just for myself, like university, I lived in residency, so that was like something. But then like it was actually my first time stepping into foot in Asia.
Oh, right, yeah.
So like for me it was like total culture shock and everything, but like I think my advice is more of I know a lot of people who want to do something like what we did, like teach abroad, do something like that. And I think that the important thing is to really like follow your intuition. So like maybe like this is like you're not just graduated, that kind of thing. Like I did, I just graduated and I like decided to go. Maybe it is like you're like later on down the road in your life and you want to do this. I feel like if you feel called to go and teach or do have an experience like this, like just to take a leap of faith and just do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people I know who have done something like this, they have came back stronger, and the experience will change you and you will make an impact, even though it may not seem like it. But for sure, like do tons of research. For me, I looked into so many different countries and like different programs, and I found EPIK was the best fit. So, that's why I kept trying to get into it and talk to as many people as you can who have done it. And then if it's still like yes, then do it, because like 5 years down the road, and it's almost 5 years for us, like you remember as one of like the best investments you ever make for yourself.
Oh yeah, totally. Like that year I was in Korea, it's been almost 4 years later, and I'm almost like every few days I'll make a reference about my time in Korea or about Korean news. I mean, I'm sure I drive like everybody crazy, but I can't stop thinking about it because it's much more interesting than my like daily life, here in America for me personally.
People are probably like saying this, like, why are you making a podcast like 4 years later, right? And then this is me like writing about it too, like I wrote articles about it, and like I always want to talk about it, and you know what, like that's just how it is.
Yeah,
I also want to say that there are other ways to teach abroad other than EPIK. So say
that's
like,
true.
for example, you didn't get in through the interview, there's always private academies. There's that's an option too. Like you won't have like the orientation aspect or maybe metro support,
Right.
but like I had friends who also work in private academies and they had good experience. It's really a hit and miss. Like everyone with through EPIK, depending on your school, your co-teachers, your
Oh
experience
yeah.
will be
Oh
very
yeah.
different.
It's all
And
hit and miss.
you just
Yeah.
have to go in with an open mind, do the best to make the experience fun for yourself and, as best as possible. And there's just so many other options to like get paid to travel too. So
Yeah, and think about it, like this is just a cool opportunity because they pay for your flight to there, like they're paying for your
provided accommodation.
travel, they're providing the accommodation and your housing. They
That's
also provide your housing. Think about that, your flight, your housing, and the pension's pretty decent in my opinion
yeah,
for
like
where I live.
good too, I would say.
My cost of living area anyway. So yeah, like I think it's very fair, very generous.
And it's great.
Uh,
Like we had we have summer vacation, winter vacation. Like we had
right.
travel like to
Yeah.
other different countries if you want to during that time.
Yes. Yes. It's honestly like something where, you know, yeah, we'll talk more about that later, but it has there's a lot of vacation, there's a lot of
There's also,
opportunities to travel. So
and
that's
there's
nice.
also a talk program.
Oh,
Aside from
talk.
EPIK, there's
Yeah.
talk, right? Talk, you don't need a degree yet. You just need to be enrolled in
Right. Yeah, it's like instead of study abroad,
years.
you're teaching abroad for a semester, and it's a very
Yeah,
good
it's not
starting
still
point,
a
I would
year,
say.
but it's not like it's different. Like you do get paid less, but it's also because you don't have the degree yet. But there's like it's different requirements. But there's EPIK, there's GPEC, there's
That's
different ones.
similar, but that's in the Gyeonggi-do province
Yeah,
of, yeah, specifically. And then yeah. But I'd say for first timers, by and large, I would say do a government program with an orientation so that, especially if you don't have an educational background, otherwise it's just going to be really, unless you're really savvy
yeah.
and very good at picking up lesson planning, classroom management, you're gonna really just be at a disadvantage. So I'd say take advantage of what's available with that if you're new. But yeah, if you're experienced, I would like if I went back, I would consider if there's a really good academy. Since I already know some of the language and the culture, I might consider going to an academy somewhere if
Mm,
depending on what they were looking for. So yeah, but I would say I'm really glad I went to that. Now, should we move on to the closing, Tina? Are we ready
I,
for that?
that's my advice. Go do it if you really want to. Thank
To reach out to us,
like almost
I will have my Twitter on there next time, so it'll be on there. For now, just you can reach out to Tina if you want
you can reach
to
out to
both
me
of
if you
us.
want. Well, I mean, you can reach out to me, and I do have like a website, which I can provide in the links below. And I also I did blog about my experience in Korea, my own personal experience. But I did talk about like teaching and working abroad, that kind of experience, and even solo travel. But then you don't have to read all that. There is one article that I have to say if you want to know more information about my more practical information and the application process and a little bit more of it's a Q&A article, so
Oh,
it's
neat.
an eye-opening experience teaching in South Korea from my world abroad. Just putting it out there. I do want to say thank you, Wes, for co-hosting this podcast, and yeah, because it's really interesting that how this came to be because
Yeah.
right now we are in quarantine, but then just a month ago we hopped on a video chat and just catching up and also reminiscing about Korea and we do my photo book, and then that was I eventually I kind of mentioned how I love to be a guest on a podcast, and you're like, hey, let's just make one ourselves, and
Yeah. And here we are. Yeah.
so
Shooting for
here we
it.
are.
Yeah, I'm really glad that. Yeah, I'm really thankful that you're doing this with me as well. It just, in times with Corona, just being able to reminisce on these memories and also being able to share information that will hopefully be useful to our listeners, that have similar dreams.
Hopefully this is not too
Hopefully.
personal.
Or at least be a little entertained. Just and also just even for myself, I'm happy that I'll have something so I won't forget
Yeah, because
a bunch of things that were really near and dear to my heart. So.
this is like at the end of the day, we want to hopefully this will be useful for some of our listeners, if any. But
Mom and dad, no.
this is also like ultimately for ourselves too, right? To remember.
It is.
Down the road. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We will have future episodes. If we do, we will talk about things like, culture shock, teaching experience, like solo travel, reverse culture shock, all of those. Okay, everyone. Thanks.
Tuning in and hope to see you later. Yep.
Yes, enjoy life.